Israel.
Thank you very much, everybody. So this is a big day, a beautiful day, potentially one of the great days ever in civilization. Things that have
The President of the United States. The President of the United States and the Prime Minister of the State of Israel.
Thank you very much, everybody. So this is a big day, a beautiful day, potentially one of the great days ever in civilization. Things that have been going on for hundreds of years and thousands of years. At least we're at a minimum very, very close, and I think we're beyond very close. And I want to thank Bibi for really getting in there and doing a job. We've worked well together, as we have with many other countries, both of us, with many other countries, which is the only way this whole situation gets solved. And I'm not just talking about Gaza. Gaza is one thing, but we're talking about much beyond Gaza. The whole deal, everything getting solved. It's called peace in the Middle East. So today is a historic day for peace, and Prime Minister Netanyahu and I have just concluded an important meeting on many vital issues, including Iran, trade, the expansion of the Abraham Accords, and most importantly, we discussed how to end the war in Gaza, but it's just a part of the bigger picture, which is peace in the Middle East, and let's call it eternal peace in the Middle East. So this is far more than anybody expected, but the level of support that I've had from the nations in the Middle East and surrounding Israel and neighbors of Israel has been incredible, incredible. Every single one of them. This afternoon, after extensive consultation with our friends and partners throughout the region, I'm formally releasing our principles for peace, which people have really liked, I must say. And these are done, not just routinely done, these are done with total consideration and working with the nations that we're talking about. All of these nations have made contributions to those suggestions. I want to thank the leaders of many Arab and Muslim nations for their tremendous support in developing the proposal, along with many of our allies in Europe. Europe has been very much involved, and as I was called by many of the European leaders, most of them saying, is this true? Are you really doing peace in the Middle East? This is the most incredible thing we've heard. Some think it's the biggest thing they've ever heard. They called just to find out, was it just a rumor or is it actually done? And then they said, have you spoken to the Arab leaders? Have you spoken to all of the other leaders that we have to get? A lot of people involved in this one. I also want to thank Prime Minister Netanyahu for agreeing to the plan and for trusting that if we work together, we can bring an end to the death and destruction that we've seen for so many years, decades, even centuries, and begin a new chapter of security, peace, and prosperity for the entire region. And I want to just say that my meetings and dialogue that we had with so many countries, Saudi Arabia as an example, the king is a phenomenal person. The Emir of Qatar, he's incredible people. UAE, and that's MBZ and ABZ. We're totally involved. These are the people that we've been dealing with and who've been actually very much involved in this negotiation, giving us ideas, things they can live with, things they can't live with. Pretty complex. I mean, after 2,000, 3,000 years, whatever it is, I guess it's got to be a little complex, or it would have been done a long time ago. The King of Jordan was with us, as you know, in the United Nations. The President of Turkey, President Erdogan, is a friend of mine, a strong man, but a good man. President of Indonesia, somebody who's an amazing leader, Prabowo. He is an amazing leader and respected by everybody. He was in the room with us. We were together with most of these people that I'm mentioning. Others were by phone or the next day. The Prime Minister and the Field Marshal of Pakistan, they were with us right from the beginning. Incredible. In fact, they just put out a statement that they fully believe in this pact. It just came out just as I was walking around. They said, "Sir, you have a big notice from the Prime Minister of Pakistan and from the Field Marshal that they back this 100%. President El-Sisi of Egypt, who's terrific. And these are people I've gotten to know over the years. I mean, I would say it started around 2015 and then went into 2016 when the presidency officially began. But I've known him actually for a long time, and there are many cases really great men. I can't say in all cases, but I will tell you, in many cases, they're great men, and some great women, too. They tend to be mostly men, however, I will say that. But if accepted by Hamas, this proposal calls for the release of all remaining hostages immediately, but in no case more than 72 hours. So the hostages are coming back, and I hate even saying this from the standpoint, doesn't sound right, but it is so important to the parents. The bodies of the young men, I believe in almost all cases, the young men are coming back immediately. I met with parents. The parents felt as strongly about getting the body of their dead boy back as they did as though the boy were alive and well. It's so important to them. And it means the immediate end to the war itself, not just Gaza. It's the war itself. Under the plan, Arab and Muslim countries have committed, and in writing in many cases, but I actually would take their word for it. The people I mentioned, I'd take their word for it, to demilitarize Gaza, and that's quickly. Decommission the military capabilities of Hamas and all other terror organizations. Do that immediately. And we're relying on the countries that I named and others to deal with Hamas. And I'm hearing that Hamas wants to get this done too, and that's a good thing. And destroy all terror infrastructure, including the tunnels, weapons, production facilities. They have a lot of production facilities that we're destroying. They'll also help train local police forces in the areas that we're discussing right now, in particular in and around Gaza, working with the new transitional authority in Gaza. All parties will agree on a timeline for Israeli forces to withdraw in phases. They'll be withdrawing in phases. No more shooting, hopefully. As progress is made toward achieving these goals, Arab and Muslim nations need to be allowed the chance to fulfill these commitments of dealing with Hamas. They have to deal with them because they were the one group that we have not dealt with. I haven't dealt with them. But the Arab countries are going to, and Muslim countries are going to be dealing with Hamas, and I believe they've already been there. I think they probably have an understanding, and they haven't maybe mentioned that, but I would imagine they do, otherwise they wouldn't have gone as far as they've gone. If they're unable to do so, then Israel would have the absolute right and actually our full backing, the U.S. full backing. Marco's here, and a lot of our leaders are here, our great Vice President, Susie Wiles, Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner. They've been so involved in this process. I don't think anybody else could have done it or even even come close. But it's we're right there. We're right there. First time in thousands of years, I think you can probably say, if you really look into it, if you study back, if you're a scholar, you would say thousands of years. Israel would have my full backing to finish the job of destroying the threat of Hamas. But I hope that we're going to have a deal for peace. And if Hamas rejects the deal, which is always possible, they're the only one left. Everyone else has accepted it. But I have a feeling that we're going to have a positive answer. But if not, as you know, Bibi, you'd have our full backing to do what you would have to do. Everyone understands that the ultimate result must be the elimination of any danger posed in the region, and that danger is caused by Hamas. The tyranny of terror has to end, and this is, again, something that we're looking for. This is eternity. This is for forever. To ensure the success of this effort, my plan calls for the creation of a new international oversight body, the Board of Peace, we call it, the Board of Peace, sort of a beautiful name, the Board of Peace, which will be headed, not at my request, believe me, I'm very busy, but we have to make sure this works. The leaders of the Arab world and Israel and everybody involved asked me to do this, so it would be headed by a gentleman known as President Donald J. Trump of the United States. That's what I want, is some extra work to do, but it's so important that I'm willing to do it, and we'll do it right, and we're going to put leaders from other countries on, and leaders that are very distinguished leaders, and we'll have a board, and one of the people that wants to be on the board is the UK former Prime Minister, Tony Blair, good man, very good man, and some others, and they'll be named over the next few days, and it'll be quite the board. Working, everybody wants to be on it now. I don't know if that had anything to do. They named me and everybody else wanted to be on it. I guess they figure, well, he's a soft touch. He'll be easy to deal with. Working with the World Bank and others, it will be responsible for recruiting and training a new government that will be made up of Palestinians along with highly qualified experts from all around the world. Hamas and other terrorist factions will play no role in the board, but they'll play no role in the governance of Gaza at all, directly or indirectly. As you know, thousands of Hamas leaders have been killed and soldiers have been killed. And we can never forget October 7th, but thousands have paid the price for that. And now it's time to get our hostages back and get back to trying to build something that's really great and very important. In our meeting today, Prime Minister Netanyahu was very clear about his opposition to a Palestinian state. And he continuously mentions October 7th, and I understand that. Most people do. And I understand and respect his position on many things, but what he's doing today is so good for Israel. I noticed that they have large crowds gathering in Israel all the time, and they have my name up. They like me for whatever reason, Bibi, I don't know, but they do like me. But they say two things: please get the hostages back, and please end the war. They've had it. It's had it. So I think it's a very popular thing you do, because he's a warrior. He doesn't know about getting back to a normal way of life, but he is a warrior, and Israel's lucky to have him. But now the people want to get back to peace. They want to get back to normalization in a true sense. Several countries have foolishly recognized the Palestinian state. As you know, some of our European friends, allies, good people, but they're really, I think, doing that because they're very tired of what's going on for so many decades. They've been presidents and prime ministers for years, and during this time, having to do with the Middle East, all they're doing is talking about the same thing over and over. They want to see it get back. And nobody wants that more than me, or I believe Bibi too. But the people of Israel want it. They really want it. They want the hostages back. That includes the probably 32 bodies that we're talking about, 20 people that are living, 32 or so people that are dead, and they want to have peace. So let us not forget how we got here. Hamas was elected by the Palestinian people. Israel withdrew from Gaza thinking they would live in peace. Remember that a long time ago, they withdrew. They said, you take it. This is our contribution to peace. But that didn't work out. That didn't work out. It was the opposite of peace. They pulled away. They let them have it. And I never forgot that because I said, that doesn't sound like a good deal to me. As a real estate person, I mean, they gave up the ocean, right? Ron, they gave up the ocean. They said, who would do this deal? And it still didn't work out. They were very generous, actually. And they gave up the most magnificent piece of land in many ways in the Middle East. And they said, all we want to do now is have peace. And that request was not honored. Instead of building a better life for the Palestinians, Hamas diverted resources to build over 400 miles of tunnels and terror infrastructure, rocket production facilities, and hid their military command posts and launch sites in hospitals, schools, and mosques. So if you went after them, you'd be after them, and you wouldn't even realize you ended up knocking out a hospital or school or a mosque. That terrible thing, terrible, terrible way to have to fight. No fight is good, but that's a real bad one. So there are many Palestinians who wish to live in peace. Many, many, many. I've seen so many of them. And they have support. And I challenge the Palestinians to take responsibility for their destiny, because that's what we're giving them. We're giving them responsibility for their destiny, fully condemn and prohibit terrorism and earn their way to a brighter future. They don't want the life that they've had. They've had a rough life with Hamas. If the Palestinian Authority does not complete the reforms that I laid out in my vision for peace in 2020, they'll have only themselves to blame. We're giving them an amazing footprint, and they have amazing support from the leaders of the Arab world and the Muslim world, the great leaders. These are great leaders. These are unbelievable leaders that have built great countries and very wealthy countries. What the future holds for the Palestinians, no one really knows, but the plan that we put forward today is focused on ending the war immediately, getting all of our hostages back, getting everything back. Hard to believe when you even say it, and creating conditions for durable Israeli security and Palestinian success. Israeli security is going to be involved. We're going to help you. We'll be there with you in terms of helping with security. We want to make sure it works. We just want to make sure it works. There shouldn't be a shot fired. Now, there will be, I guess, because that's the way it seems to be, but there shouldn't have to be within a few days. There shouldn't have to be a shot fired. Maybe for eternity. Wouldn't that be nice? I hope it's true. I can tell you the leadership of that region feels that there's a good chance of it being true. So this will lead to this agreement that we're talking about will lead to a sustainable, long-term peace. No president in history has been a greater friend of the state of Israel than I have, in addition to negotiating the Abraham Accords. I like to say it that way because the real people, that's what they call Abraham. I would say Abraham, but it's so much nicer when you say Abraham. So much more elegant. But the Abraham Accords are amazing. Jared, you did that along with your group of geniuses, and nobody thought that could be done. We have 4 countries, and Sleepy Joe Biden didn't do a thing. He didn't even know what the hell they were. He should have had them fold up. But I think this will also lead to packing them. And who knows, maybe even Iran can get in there. I hope, we hope we're going to be able to get along with Iran. I think they're going to be open to it. I really believe that. But they could be a member. I long ago said, I'll bet you at some point Iran will be a member of the Accords. And little did I realize it was going to take this turn. That was some turn we did with the B-2s. But I think they might very well be there because it's a great thing for them economically. I recognize the eternal capital of Israel. I opened the American embassy in Jerusalem. That was something that everyone said would never be done, could never be done. Virtually every president for many, many years, for decades, would campaign on making Jerusalem the capital of Israel. They campaigned on it over and over. Is that right, Steve? Is that right? Everyone, and when they got to it, and I understand why now, because it was so. When I got to office, I campaigned on it too. I said, we're going to make it. And then I'd get calls from the leaders of various countries saying, please don't do it, please don't do it. It'll end the whole world, please don't do it. And finally, I just didn't say anything, and I did it. People were calling me before I did it because they heard I was going to do it, and leaders of countries were calling me, and I think it was on a Thursday that I did it, and they'd call me Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 3-4 times a day, and I said, tell them I'll call them back on Friday. And I announced it on Thursday, and I called them back, the biggest people in the world, and they said, you've done it. I said, done what? You've made the capital of Israel, Jerusalem, and we wanted to talk yet. I wish you called me a little sooner. Maybe I could have done something about it. So that was a lot easier than getting into an argument, because I knew what they were calling about. And you know what? It turned out to be amazing. Everybody thought it was going to lead to the end of the world, right? The end of the world, Ron, that's what they said. It didn't lead to anything. It just led to something that I promised, and something that was very, very popular for Jewish people and a lot of other people, too. I recognize Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights, and I cut taxpayer funding to the corrupt United Nations Relief and Works Agency. And United Nations was interesting because, as you know, a few days ago they introduced me. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States. I'm looking at my teleprompter, and the thing was dead, stone cold, dead. The thing's up here. I have a long, beautiful speech to make. I'm back 30 feet back, and I'm saying, they're introducing me. There's nothing on my teleprompter. So, but I made a speech. I actually got good marks. You think Biden could have done that? I don't think so. I don't think he could have done that. I don't think too many people could have done it. But actually, it was actually more of a speech from my heart, if you want to know the truth. I think it was maybe better in certain ways because it was from the heart. It has to be from the heart. Otherwise, you're in big trouble. But I cut taxpayer funding for that very corrupt United Nations Relief and Works Agency, and nobody thought that would be done, and withdrew from the horrible Iran nuclear deal that was imposed upon Israel by Barack Hussein Obama and Biden. And I don't think Biden knew anything about it, though. I don't think he knows anything about it now, actually, if you ask him. He'd say, what is that? And we obliterated Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity, making it impossible for them to have a nuclear weapon, which they would have had probably in about 2 months from that. But I've never asked Israel to compromise its security, but we had big, strong talk. Nobody's been better to Israel. No president's been better to Israel than Donald Trump. But we had a long, strong talk, Bibi and I, and he understands it's time. It's time. History has shown, and the people of Israel want it. And the people of the Middle East want it. The people of enemies of Israel want it, but they don't have really too many enemies right now. And you know what? Many countries have gained great respect for Israel, for the way they fight, for the job they do, including me. I had respect anyway, but they gained respect. History has shown us that those who have relations with Israel have thrived, while those who have devoted resources and attention toward the destruction and even annihilation of Israel have languished. They haven't done well. Israel is not going anywhere. They're going to coexist with other people and countries in the region, from Syria to Lebanon to Saudi Arabia. The promise of a new Middle East is so clearly within our reach. This is the closest we've ever come to real peace, not fake peace, not political fool's peace. If we can get this difficult problem solved, the opportunities for all within that vast region of this world, it's a vast region, it's unlimited. The Abraham Accords show that all countries are better off when they communicate and work together and embrace new opportunities. I hope Jared and Steve and Susie and Marco and JD, we have great people. I hope you guys are going to work very hard to get these other countries in, because now they have no excuse. There's no longer an excuse. They were somewhere hesitant. And I tell you, the 4 countries that went in, I give them tremendous credit, and it's worked out incredibly well for them. In the same spirit, I'm pleased to report that earlier today, we took another important step toward greater understanding in the region. A short time ago, we had a historic phone call in the Oval Office with Prime Minister Tani, who's really a great person. So we had a great talk, and I was on the phone, and Bibi was talking. Prime Minister Al Thani was of Qatar. They really had a heart-to-heart conversation. It was a great conversation, I thought. It was productive. It was everything that you need to have something turn out to be successful. And I want to thank Bibi, and I want to thank the Prime Minister. It was fantastic. We agreed to launch a formal trilateral mechanism between Israel, Qatar, and the United States to begin a dialogue to enhance mutual security, correct misperceptions, and avoid future misgivings. And I want to thank Qatar, its leadership, and the Emir. He's a fantastic person. I think, I'm going to be his public relations man, because I know him differently than a lot of people know him. But he wants peace. He wants to see peace. And its people, and they really acknowledge the critical role that they've played as mediator. And again, we're not quite finished. We have to get Hamas, but I think they're going to be able to do that. So now it's time for Hamas to accept the terms of the plan that we've put forward today. And again, this is a different Hamas than we were dealing with, because I guess over 20,000 have been killed. Their leadership has been killed 3 times over. So you're really dealing with different people than we've been dealing with over the last 4 years, 5 years. Everyone has done their part and come to the table in good faith. Our Arab and Muslim partners are fully prepared to step up and fulfill their commitments for the benefit of the people of Gaza and the entire region. They're willing to step up and do a lot. They really are. There are a lot of good people involved. Everybody who wants to see an end to the violence and destruction should be united in calling for Hamas to accept the extremely fair proposal so that we can end the war and get us back our hostages right now and have everlasting peace. And I look forward to having relationships with everyone. As the chairman of the board, I'll be involved, and we'll have meetings with some very smart people that'll be working over there to make sure that we haven't just been wasting time with an agreement that doesn't get done. The task of building peace will not be easy. There are some of the hardest problems in the world to solve, and that's why it's been going on for so many centuries. But too many lives are at stake not to try, and this is more than a try. I mean, I think this is something that gets done when you have virtually every country, and these are powerful, powerful countries that have a lot of money, and the money can make things happen. A lot of countries try, and they don't have any money. These are very rich countries that can make things happen. So together we'll forge a much safer and more hopeful future for everybody, including Israel. And I want to thank Prime Minister Netanyahu for his partnership. And I want to thank all of the leaders, the kings and the emirs and the presidents and prime ministers, people I mentioned. And they've been absolutely fantastic to work with. And it's just happened very quickly. It's happened from a couple of weeks before I had a couple of meetings, but a couple of weeks before we went to the United Nations, and we had some incredible meetings. It all came to place. It all took place, and everybody wanted to be a part of it. I don't have anybody that's saying we don't want anything to do with it. It's just the opposite. And I'll tell you, a year ago, I don't think we would have had this kind of participation, Mr. VP, right? I don't think we would have had. It's been amazing. The participation was 100%. Everybody wants to be a part of it. And everybody, those very strong countries, everybody wants it to work. So, Bibi, congratulations on this. I think this will be your crowning achievement, frankly, if this all works out. We think it will. It's going to be your crowning achievement, and I want to thank you very much for being here. Thank you. Please.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. President, first I want to thank you for graciously hosting me once again in the White House. And second, I want to thank you for your friendship and for your leadership. From Jerusalem to Tehran, from the Golan Heights to Gaza, you've proven time and again what I've said many times. You are the greatest friend that Israel has ever had in the White House. And Mr. President, you and I both know it's not even close. While you focus at home on making America great again, your leadership abroad is changing the world for the better, ending wars and advancing peace. I believe that today we're taking a critical step towards both ending the war in Gaza and setting the stage for dramatically advancing peace in the Middle East, and I think beyond the Middle East, in very important Muslim countries. I support your plan to end the war in Gaza, which achieves our war aims. It will bring back to Israel all our hostages, dismantle Hamas's military capabilities, end its political rule, and ensure that Gaza never again poses a threat to Israel. We would not have achieved this turning point without the courage and sacrifice of our incredibly brave soldiers. They fight like lions to defend the people of Israel, and they serve on the front line in the war between civilization and barbarism. Mr. President, when our two countries stand shoulder to shoulder, we achieve the impossible. Just a few months ago, in Operation Rising Lion and Operation Midnight Hammer, we struck a decisive blow against Iran's nuclear and ballistic missile program. Your bold decision to send those B-2s made the region safer and the world safer. Now, under your leadership, we're taking the next step to win the war and expand the peace. Your plan is consistent with the 5 principles my government set for the end of the war and the day after Hamas. Everybody asks, what is your plan for the day after Hamas? Here's our plan. Pass it in the cabinet. All our hostages, both those who are alive and those who died, all of them will return home immediately. Hamas will be disarmed. Gaza will be demilitarized. Israel will retain security responsibility, including a security perimeter for the foreseeable future. And lastly, Gaza will have a peaceful civilian administration that is run neither by Hamas nor by the Palestinian Authority. If Hamas agrees to your plan, Mr. President, the first step will be a modest withdrawal, followed by the release of all our hostages within 72 hours. The next step will be the establishment of an international body charged with fully disarming Hamas and demilitarizing Gaza. I appreciate your willingness to lead the body, Mr. President. I really appreciate it because you have a lot of things to do, and this is important. And it reflects the confidence that this will give everyone, that things will be followed up on all the commitments made. The fact that you're taking this on, I think, helps a lot to make sure that everything flows in the direction that we want. Now, if this international body succeeds, we will have permanently ended the war. Israel will conduct further withdrawals linked to the extent of disarmament and demilitarization, but will remain in the security perimeter for the foreseeable future. I think we should understand that we're giving everybody a chance to have this done peacefully, something that will achieve all our war objectives without any further bloodshed. But if Hamas rejects your plan, Mr. President, or if they supposedly accept it and then basically do everything to counter it, then Israel will finish the job by itself. This can be done the easy way, or it can be done the hard way, but it will be done. We prefer the easy way, but it has to be done. All these goals must be achieved because we didn't fight this horrible fight, sacrifice the finest of our young men to have Hamas stay in Gaza and threaten us again and again and again with these horrific massacres. Mr. President, I was encouraged by your clear statement at the UN against the recognition of a Palestinian state. That would be an outcome that, after October 7th, would reward terrorists, undermine security, and endanger Israel's very existence. As for the Palestinian Authority, I appreciate your firm position that the PA could have no role whatsoever in Gaza without undergoing a radical and genuine transformation. In your 2020 peace plan, which you mentioned just now, you made clear what that transformation requires. It's not lip service. It's not checking a box. It's a fundamental, genuine, and enduring transformation. And that means ending pay to slay, changing the poisonous textbooks that teach hatred to Jews, to Palestinian children, stopping incitement in the media, ending lawfare against Israel at the ICC, the ICJ, recognizing the Jewish state, and many, many other reforms. It won't come as a surprise to you that the vast majority of Israelis have no faith that the PA Leopard will change its spots. But rather than wait for this miraculous transformation, your plan provides a practical and realistic path forward for Gaza in the coming years, in which Gaza will be administered neither by Hamas nor the Palestinian Authority, but by those committed to a genuine peace with Israel. I think this can be not only a new beginning for Gaza, I think it can be a new beginning for the entire region. Under your leadership, we can re-energize, well, I've got to contribute my own, we can re-energize the Abraham Accords. That's what it's called in the original Hebrew, Abraham. Abraham is fine, Abraham, however you want to call it. Under your leadership, Mr. President, we can re-energize the Abraham Accords that we forged 5 years ago. We can expand them to many more Arab and Muslim nations that choose moderation over extremism. I think there's an opportunity here. It's not going to be easy, it's tough going, but I think if we succeed, you're absolutely right. We're going to open possibilities that nobody even dreamed of. But I think we dream of them. As you've told me, Mr. President, and you've told the world many, many times, you said, remember October 7th. Remember October 7th. And we do. We will never forget the horrors of October 7th, and we will do whatever is necessary to make sure they don't happen again. Since October 7th, Israel's enemies have learned a hard truth. Those who attack us pay a heavy price, but those who partner with us advance progress and security for their peoples. President Trump just said it. It's also in the Bible. It says, those who will bless you will be blessed, and those who will curse you will be cursed. And that's actually what is happening. We want the blessings. I think we've done a lot in the past 2 years to end the curse. We're not finished, but we've done a lot. And we've done a lot together to end the curse. I want to thank your entire team for their efforts to get to this point. I especially want to thank Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner for their indefatigable work to bring Israel and Arab states in the region closer together. I am deeply grateful to both of them for their work. We had a phone call today just to make it clear. I said to the Prime Minister of Qatar Israel was targeting terrorists, wasn't targeting Qatar. And of course, we regretted the loss of the Qatari citizen. It wasn't our target. And I very much appreciate President Trump's proposal to have a trilateral body, the United States, Israel, and Qatar, to work out respective grievances. There are quite a few. But if we could try to mitigate them or put it on a different footing, I think that'll be good for everyone. Above all the people, the fine team, the many helpers who've done this, I want to thank you, Mr. President. History has already shown that under your leadership, Israel and America can change the face of the Middle East. And today I'm hopeful that your plan to end the war in Gaza will do so again and do so soon. It will free our hostages, end Hamas's tyranny in Gaza, and enable a more secure and prosperous future for the peoples of our region. Thank you, Mr. President. May God bless America. May God bless Israel. May God bless the indispensable alliance between our countries. And may I add in Hebrew, G'mal Chatima Tova, may we all be inscribed in the book of life. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bibi. So I think while we wait for these documents to be signed and get everybody in line, I think it maybe is not really appropriate to take questions. I'm meeting with, as you know, a couple of Democrats in a little while about the country, about keeping our country open. They're going to have to do some things because their ideas are not very good ones. They're very bad for our country. So we'll see how that works out. But this is something that was really historic today. This was something that was amazing. I think, Bibi, I mean, depending on you, I think while we're waiting for signatures and waiting for approvals from a lot of different countries that are involved in this, we probably shouldn't take questions? Or would you like to take a question or two from perhaps a friendly Israeli reporter, if there's such a thing?
That's a very, very tough proposition. But I would think, Mr. President, that I would go by your instinct that this is, we'll have enough time for questions. Let's settle the issue first, I think. No.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much for being here. This is a very big announcement. We just, as you know, left the military. That was something, generals, admirals, all the top brass, and that was a great morning. And this is other fantastic news for you because it's going to be a lowering of medical prices, drug prices, like in the history of our country has never happened before. It's favored nations, if you know what that means, but we'll talk about it. Today, I'm thrilled to announce that one of the world's largest pharmaceutical manufacturers and one of the best anywhere in the world, Pfizer, has agreed to offer countless prescription medications at major discounts in the United States as a result of the most favored nation drug pricing order that we established earlier this year. As you know, the United States is paying sometimes 10 times more than other countries for drugs, and a lot of excuses were made for that, but it went on for many years, many years, decades. And it's not going on any longer. We're going to be paying the lowest price now. We're going to be paying whatever the lowest price is, favored nations. This will save American taxpayers and consumers hundreds of millions of dollars a year. I want to thank Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla, who is one of the most respected people in the industry and in business generally. I will say that, Albert, for joining us today, along with Secretary, as you know, we got a number of secretaries. Secretary, is Lutnick behind me, I hope? Where's Lutnick?
He's over here, to the right.
You can get over here. I'm looking for Lutnick. Great. Great Secretary of Commerce. Good, I'm good to hear you. You would have been in trouble. Howard Lutnick, great Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., CMS Administrator, Mehmet Oz, Medicare Administrator Chris Plump, and the FDA Commissioner Marty McCary, and I just want to thank them all. They've been working hard on many, many things. I think this is one of the biggest medical announcements that this office has ever made, because we're talking about price reductions, as you'll see in a couple of minutes, that are incredible. For many years, Americans have paid the highest prices anywhere in the world for prescription drugs. They paid far more, 10 times, 13 times, 15 times more than other countries for the exact same product. A major reason is that the American consumers have been subsidizing research and development costs for the entire planet. They put all of that on us, and yet they were the beneficiaries too. So it's being changed as of today. The United States had just 4% of the world's population and consumers, only 13% of all prescription drugs, yet pharmaceutical companies make 75% of their profits from the United States. So think of that. We have 4% of the market, 13% of prescription drugs, and yet, Albert, I didn't know you were that violent. I'm surprised you're doing this.
I'm getting better.
No, he's doing the right thing. Thank you. And yet they make 75% of their profits from the American customers, so it's something. That's why I signed an executive order combating this practice, and we signed it very happily a little while ago. Today, Pfizer is committing, as will other drug companies as we go through the weeks. But Pfizer is truly one of the biggest in the world and one of the greatest in the world. Today, Pfizer is committing to offer all of their prescription medications to Medicaid, and it will be at the most favored nation's prices. It's going to have a huge impact on bringing Medicaid costs down like nothing else. I told you that in my first term, I was so proud of the fact that for the first time in 28 years, drug prices came down. And I had a news conference that I explained it was 1/10 of 1%, but it was down. And here we're talking about, in one case, over 1,000%. This is a critical step forward to our work and to improve health care and hardworking, low-income Americans, especially low-income Americans, who will be helped so greatly. In addition, Pfizer is agreeing to provide some of their most popular current medications to all consumers at heavily discounted prices of anywhere between 50 and even 100%. And that's off the price. And in some cases, even more than that. These drugs will be available for direct purchase online at a website operated by the federal government. We're also announcing that moving forward, all new medications introduced by Pfizer to the American market will be sold at the reduced most favored nation cost. So we'll be paying essentially what other countries are paying, who have been much lower, much lower for many, many years. Furthermore, Pfizer will invest $70 billion to reshore domestic manufacturing facilities. In other words, they're going to bring a lot of their facilities to make their drugs and make what they make, their product. They're going to make it in the United States. I appreciate that $70 billion investment and fund research and development right here in America. We're working with other major pharmaceutical companies to secure similar agreements. Everyone understands that the status quo where Americans pay more for drugs, prescription drugs, and they pay more than foreign countries who take advantage of us in many other ways, although not so many anymore. I think we've pretty well got that stopped, right? I think so. We've stopped that, but they took advantage of a lot of other precedents, that I can tell you. But we're making this pay to be very unacceptable, what they've done in the past. That's why my administration is also taking historic action to investigate the unfair and discriminatory trade practices of other countries that extort our pharmaceutical makers to shift costs onto the American consumer. They say, no, give us a price, a very low price, and just charge the American consumer, charge it to the U.S. The United States is done subsidizing the health care of the rest of the world. It's a big thing. I can't tell you how big this is. And I was all set to go on a first term, but then you had the COVID, and we had to focus on that. But I said, I want to get back here because you're talking about 14, 15, 1,600% reductions in some cases. But by taking this bold step, we're ending the era of global price gouging at the expense of American families, and we're making America healthy again, which is our our little theme for the people behind me. And I want to just ask Secretary Kennedy to come up, and we'll start, and we'll go through it with Oz and Klomp and Bourla and McCary, and we'll go through it, and if you have any questions. But this is a really big announcement. This is something that most people said was not doable. And other countries are going along because we told them, if you don't go along, they didn't have to go along. But if they didn't go along, we were going to put extra tariffs on those countries. And we were going to charge them the amount of money that they should be paying for the reduction in costs. So I think we had a pretty good negotiating position. So, Bobby, I'd like you to speak about this, and what a great job, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to start by thanking a couple of people who aren't up here, Theo Merkel, Dr. Heidi Overton, who played key roles in this negotiation and helped make this happen. And also Inma Hernandez, who's not up here, but John Brook and Chris Klomp, who were the people who were negotiating, in some cases, I think including last night, 24 hours without any sleep. This would not have happened without President Trump's leadership. I told my son last night, we're all under secrecy about this, but I told my son late last night, a 27-year-old son, Connor, who's a very liberal Democrat, and I told him this was happening, and he just paused for a minute, and he said, "Thank you, Dad, I'm so proud of you." Because this is something Democrats have wanted for 20 years, Republicans have wanted for 20 years. Everybody said they're going to do it. Nobody has even taken a step towards doing it. And the reason was because it was such a daunting task. And, even all of the negotiators, you see, I also want to thank Howard Lutnick. This would not have happened without him. But even all of the negotiators here and all the people at HHS and at the White House team, all we could see was all the reasons that this couldn't happen. Everybody had tried. Nobody could make it happen. And it was President Trump alone who, with his doggedness, his persistence, he saw this clearly in a way that none of us other, in its most simplest terms. Why are we spending more on this country than any other country? Why are we spending 75% of the revenues that come to the pharmaceutical industry? We're doing all the research, and everybody else is riding on our slipstream. And President Trump, I would say, harangued and harassed us to make this happen. I was getting calls at 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. "Oh, are you asleep? And you got to get MFN done." And at one point, Dr. Oz told me, "I can't take the president's calls anymore." I have a lot of reasons. My wife has a lot of reasons to say to me about different things that happen in my life. Doesn't that give you anxiety? And I say, I don't get anxiety. This gave me anxiety. Oh, thank you, President Trump. It would not have happened without your leadership. This is real leadership. It's a president who has a vision and makes that vision happen. And I can't think of any other president of the United States who could have done this in our history. I'm very grateful to you. This is an extraordinary benefit to the American people. Thank you for your vision, President Trump, your bold action, your unwavering commitment to health and well-being of the American people. Never has a president stood up so bravely for the American people with respect to health care. And by the way, I forgot to thank Albert Bourla. Albert and I have had a long history of antipathy and antagonism toward each other. But I have to say his leadership in this took tremendous courage. And he really created a template for corporate responsibility, for putting public health ahead of his individual interests. So I'm very, very grateful to you for that, Albert. Under the leadership of President Trump, the U.S. government is now acting as a tough negotiator on behalf of the American people. Today is about fairness, it's about equality, it's about giving hope to those who are trying to stay healthy, who are managing illness, and who are fighting for their lives. We refuse to make the most vulnerable citizens continue to pay an unthinkable price for the world's pharmaceutical breakthroughs, which we pay for. This policy is a shield for the chronically ill who have carried the burden of high drug costs for far too long. It's a signal to every American family that we're finally putting their health and financial security first. And it sets a new standard, one that says we won't write blank checks to the drug industry any longer. No family should ever be forced to choose between filling a prescription and putting food on the table. Americans should not be gouged paying 300 or 400 or 1,000% more than people in other countries for the exact same drug, many times manufactured in the same factory in New Jersey and sold in Great Britain for 1/10 the price that it's being sold for here. This week, and I was with some friends up in Martha's Vineyard, and an old friend, one of my oldest friends, his wife and daughter have a chronic disease. And that chronic disease last year cost $150,000 to treat. And the mother had to choose whether she was going to take that money and spend it on her or her daughter. And she spent it on her daughter. So she had to make that choice. It's a choice that no mother should have to make. We did a roundtable recently on drug prices. One patient spent more than $180,000 on one drug. One cashed in all of her savings and worked 3 jobs to make ends meet. One almost quit her job and moved to Germany to get the drug cheaper. Some looked at getting the drug on unsafe secondary markets because they could not afford it through the legitimate markets. Today, we begin to right that ship. For the mother trying to help her child get better, for her grandmother at the pharmacy counter, and for millions of Americans who want to restore their health. Today is about another promise made by President Trump and another promise kept by President Trump to the American people. And it's only just the beginning. This is all thanks to your unwavering leadership, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
There is a fine line between vision and hallucination. People have to follow you for it to be a vision. And President Trump, you made a lot of people following you on an idea that most people thought was not possible, even remotely. And when we have that shared vision, and I'll speak to some of the people who are involved in this process because it was incredible effort that gives me great pride to serve in this administration. And the fact that it did not leak is also an issue of pride for us because these were tough challenges. And Albert Bourla looks very calm up here and cat-like, but he is ferocious when you get him in a negotiating room. This is true for all the pharmaceutical companies that we are negotiating with. And Secretary Kennedy, my son Oliver, who I told about this deal as I was walking over here, is a Republican. And you know what he said? Thank you for making us proud. Because it's not just a Democratic problem, it's a Republican problem. This has not happened before. And it took a crusader like President Trump, with the support of Secretary Kennedy, Secretary Lutnick, I see the vice presidents here as well, just unwavering, dogged pursuit of change. And now I have to admit that I know the president has me on speed dial, and most of the time when he would call me, as Secretary Kennedy alluded to, it was about MFN, and he always had reasons why we needed to go faster and why people were being hurt today because we're allowing the kinds of pricing that had been tolerated for so many decades in America. The time of the day didn't matter, the day of the week didn't matter, and that's how the president was functioning. This was such an important part of what he saw as his legacy, which is why it brings such pride to all of us up here and many others to deliver it. And the laser focus that the president had on this, which he shared with me the day that I was nominated, that he nominated me for this position and has reminded me frequently since, made it a top priority for us as well at CMS. Now, to do this, you have to have tactics, not just vision, but tactics. And the first tactic the president shared was to introduce me to Albert Bourla. He took us to dinner with Secretary Kennedy, and he argued, and he's a great deal maker, as you know, that if you're going to make a deal of this scope, of this nature, you need trust. So the president lit the kindling, he got the embers going, but he needed us to nurture that beginning of a fire so they would blaze into what today we can announce as the grand deal, one of the greatest ever, certainly in the space of pharmaceuticals. I gained to respect Albert, and I'll tell you why in particular. It was because he recognized the dangerous problems facing so many Americans, that they had to choose between taking medications prescribed by their doctor that could be life-saving or shopping at the grocery store, paying for their kids, a fundamentally important need that would be squeezed out because they couldn't compromise on drugs, or often worse, they compromise on the drugs. 1/3 of all prescriptions are not filled in the pharmacy because of this. We talked through the winter. We talked through the spring. We talked through the summer. And we got nowhere. We stalled. The industry is powerful. They're important. They have smart people. There's no reason for them to give the numbers that the president is articulating today. And you see these numbers on the charts around us. These are massive wins for the American people. But the president in July demanded, after the executive order, that manufacturers make a firm commitment and to lower prices or else. And it sent shockwaves through the industry. It got the ball rolling again. Our talks with Albert heated up. But it wasn't until last week, if you want an inside story, it wasn't until last week that we made a major breakthrough. And our hardworking team embarked on a remarkable story that I think books will be written about, 24/7, nonstop, with industry, with Albert, with his great team at Pfizer. And with this partnership, we began to deal with the fundamental challenges we have, which is protecting medical advances for the future, while at the same time securing the prices Americans want today. We're going to continue to stimulate and strengthen innovation. That's what a great country does, and we are a great country with a great leader. We're going to protect the U.S. hegemony in R&D. We dominate the planet in discovering cures for illnesses. All those orphan ailments, all those remarkable advances, they come from research labs here with companies like Pfizer and other great ones in the pharmaceutical space. We're going to lead in the life sciences. We're going to lead in ideas. And we're going to make sure that we do all that while we're being fair to the American people, especially our most vulnerable. We're going to finally deliver on the fair drug prices that President Trump has been speaking about for 2 terms. We're going to celebrate this historic day, I predict, this historic day in the medical field for generations to come. The heroic negotiators that I do feel compelled to mention, and Secretary Kennedy kindly also mentioned their names. Some of them can't be in here because they're busy negotiating future deals. Inma Hernandez-Delso, John Brooks, who's a deputy administrator of mine, Theo Merkel, who is in the back and tall and hard to miss with DPC, and Corey Enslin with the same group, did a spectacular job, and Don Dempsey at OMB. Just wonderful human beings, worked tirelessly to get this done. We were able to secure this first MFN deal, and the president touched on this, but we have much more to come. You'll be hearing breaking news from the president for the rest of the fall. And Mr. President, these brilliant minds are here because of you. Now, I don't want to just pay homage to this. I want to actually speak this a little bit. The passion to protect the American people brings top-tier Americans into the government. We've created a powerful administration with the president's leadership, an administration of winners. People get things done. They see the generational opportunity to fix the biggest problems our nation faces. And the person who led this negotiation, Chris Klump, embodies this seal. Now, Chris Klump came to visit Secretary Kennedy and I the very first day we were looking for staff to try to bring in the government. And neither of us really had an idea of how challenging this might be. And he came to the interview, and we knew that he had built a business that was worth several $100 million. And the secretary, very poker-faced as he tends to be, looked at him and said, "Are you willing to give it all up and move your family to Washington?" A young family, 4 young children, beautiful wife. "Are you willing to come across the country and serve our nation, serve this president to ensure vital programs like Medicare, which he runs, will keep our seniors healthy for years to come?" He gave it all up, like so many have in this administration, passionate to follow the president's lead and serve under Secretary Kennedy. And for those of you at home who are watching, and I hope there are quite a few, I think this shows just how cool a place it is to work, is in this government. And I take great pride in handing the ball to Chris. Chris, tell the American people what they have won, thanks to your passionate ability to deliver on President Trump's promise.
Thanks very much. Thank you, Mr. President. You have enabled something that as recently as last night, nearly everyone has said was impossible. And Secretary Kennedy and Administrator Oz, thank you for having trust in us as a negotiating team to drive this forward on behalf of the American people. It is an absolute honor and privilege. And Mr. Bourla, to you and to the team at Pfizer, you have taken a step that I think few appreciate, requires a level of courage to change something that for decades administrations have tried. And there was no incentive rationally for you to do, and yet you've done it because you recognized the opportunity to align your economic interest with the social interest of the American people, and we're grateful. Today is historic, as has been discussed. this is a major win in the battle for affordable health care and affordable drugs. As the president said, on average, we pay nearly 3 times what the rest of the wealthy world pays for branded pharmaceuticals. And yet we drive more than 50% of global R&D, 50% of revenues, nearly 70% of profits. It's unjust. It's morally unjust. And when this happens, we stifle innovation and we limit access for the most vulnerable people across the planet and in America who need these medications. And so the president directed us to make deals. That's what he does, and it's what we do. And all great deals, and this is a great deal, are rooted in principles. And this deal was rooted in the principle of fairness. Now, the president could have directed us to go to the poorest country on the planet and find the cheapest price for every single drug and bring that back to the United States and use the might of the government to insist that that's the price we pay. And that might have worked, actually, for just a little bit. But very quickly, it would have utterly destroyed innovation in pharmaceuticals. It would have destroyed American primacy in building life-saving medications. There are nearly 20,000 known diseases on the planet. We have treatments or cures for far fewer than 10% of them. So that would have been a bad strategy, and it would have limited access to those who need those medications the most. But he didn't call for that. He didn't call for 50% lower than the lowest price on the planet. What he called for was fairness. And that's a powerful principle, because we all grow up wanting to be on the right side of fair. And it allowed us to do what has not been done before, which is to call on manufacturers and ask them to be fair, and allows us to go to countries and ask them to pay their fair share in the battle against global disease. And that is the unlock for this great deal. Now, it's my privilege to talk just for a few minutes about the details of the deal. First, let's start with the definition of MFN. What do we mean by that? This is not made-up list prices that have often been quoted in prior administrations, stuffed with fees and rebates. We're talking about we start at net prices, after fees, after rebates, the prices people actually pay here, the prices people actually pay in other wealthy countries. We then index to a basket of countries, wealthy countries, across the world. And we go drug by drug, and we look for the lowest price. And that becomes the starting point for what an MFN price is in the United States. And then we've built this principles of fairness on 5 key pillars, as we've talked about. Number 1, as has been discussed, direct access for patients at TrumpRx, which is a site soon to be launched, available often at full MFN and always at lower prices than currently available. This is bypassing middlemen. It increases transparency. In many instances, prices are 80% lower than they are today. No more Canadian detours to purchase drugs more inexpensively at our neighbor. You do it from home. You do it a click. This is American ingenuity outsmarting the system. Number 2, the president was very clear to us and directed us to ensure that we secured the lowest prices for the most vulnerable Americans, those who are served by Medicaid. So we focused there first. So Pfizer will be putting virtually all of its portfolio of drugs at MFN prices available to Medicaid in the near future. This safeguards the program. This ensures that this program lives as a lifeline without undue burden on the taxpayer for those who need it most, for our vulnerable Americans whom we are charged morally to care for. The third principle is about future-proofing fairness. This is the idea that Pfizer has committed, as are other manufacturers, that they will not launch a new drug for commercial, Medicare, Medicaid, or cash pay markets at a price that is higher than the other wealthy world. Now, they are free to price their drugs wherever they want. These are not price caps. These are not price controls. They can price however they'd like. We're simply asking them, and they are committing not to undercut us in other countries. This is an essential principle. This allows us to retrain other countries to appropriately value innovation for their citizens, to appropriately understand what fair share means to contribute global R&D. This allows us not to compromise access for those who need it most. And this is a powerful commitment. The fourth principle is around shared savings. As our commerce colleagues and as our U.S. trade representative colleagues succeed in encouraging other countries to pay more for existing medications, a portion of that will go to fund additional R&D. And a portion of that will repatriate back to the United States to offset prices, lower prices further for Americans on those existing drugs. And the fifth principle, as discussed, with hats off to Secretary Lutnick and Ambassador Jameson Greer from U.S. Trade, is about Pfizer committing to onshore 100% of the value of all imports that it currently imports to the United States, thus ensuring that we seal our great American resurgence. If you're watching this right now and you have been looking for evidence that this is a president who knows and cares about you, who is fighting for you, who is fighting for every American, this is Exhibit A. This is not an empty promise. It's not platitudes. It's not lacking a plan. These are hard contracts with teeth, lowering prices now that we will all feel. These are the most significant, historical, substantive, mathematically quantified price reductions in the history of our country in modern-day pharmaceuticals. I cannot thank you enough for your leadership in enabling this to happen. It is an absolute pleasure. The president has showed us that the impossible can be achieved, and that is what's happened today. God bless America. With that in mind, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Albert Bourla, CEO of Pfizer.
Mr. President, what an honor to be here today in this office to announce a landmark agreement. I think it's an historic day.
Is this the coolest office? He has a beautiful office, but the Oval is the coolest, right? What do you think?
I think by far. And I have seen other presidents' offices. There's nothing like that.
Yeah, it's good office.
Yeah. So it's an historic day because I think today we are turning the tide and we are reversing an unfair situation. For years, other rich nations refused to pay the fair share for the medical innovation. And as a result, Americans had to assume disproportional cost on their shoulders. This situation, we all knew, is not sustainable. This situation is a situation that many wanted to change, but no one could. This is changing today with this agreement. In July, the president sent to me and other heads of pharmaceutical companies a letter. And over there, he articulated 4 specific requests. These requests, it was obvious to us, were designed to lower drug cost in America in different ways, each one of them. And altogether, holistically, to have synergistic effect in the impact that that will have in the US healthcare cost and patients. With this deal that we signed today, we satisfied all 4 of President's requests, all 4. The big winner of this deal clearly will be the American patient. There is no doubt about it. They are the ones that will see significant impact in their ability to buy medicines. But I would argue that it is not the only winner. I think who else is a winner here? It is American innovation and American economy. In our industry, we had 2 major overhangs that have substantially reduced our valuations and create concerns for us in our ability to invest. We are addressing both of them right now, and I will speak about them. The first one was the uncertainty of tariffs. Because President is absolutely right. Tariffs is the most powerful tool to motivate behaviors, Mr. President, and clearly motivated ours, right? So by this agreement that we did, we commit to onshore the production of our medicines that are consumed in the US and are made outside the US. And for that, we are ready to unleash our investment portfolio in this country. And the President graciously gave us a 3-year grace period that we will not be subject to the 232 tariffs, as long as, of course, we move the products here. That's one. The second overhang in our industry was this uncertainty. What will happen with the framework of pricing in the country? Because this uncertainty, it was what was holding people from investing in the pharmaceutical industry, which resulted in significant reduction of our multiples. Actually, our multiples are at historical low. Well, now we have clarity about what is the framework for the US pricing. Read the letter of President Trump, read the 4 points, and this is the framework. And we will abide to that, and going forward, this is how things will be priced in the US and abroad. We are ready to invest, as the President also mentioned, $70 billion in the next few years from Pfizer. in manufacturing and research in America alone. I really think this is an historical moment because also I can put that behind us and focus on the things that I want to spend my time, cancer treatments, to bring better obesity medicines, to bring better vaccines, to bring things that people value. And thank you for allowing us to do that. I want to thank Secretary Kennedy. I want to thank Secretary Latnik. Your leadership helped us to pull that together. You are the masterminds of everything, and without the brilliant way that you designed the whole thing, we wouldn't be able to make it happen. But you were even more brilliant because you had someone in your team that he was the driving force behind everything. And I don't have words to thank you for your integrity. And it is what you have said. We created trust from day one. And that was the most important thing that allowed us to be able to pull very difficult negotiations. Of course, also I want to thank the US trade representative, who is also heavily engaged, and he's probably the first trade representative that I have seen that cares about our industry and cares to do something about unfair situations out there, but more than anyone else. Mr. President, I want to thank you, for your leadership and, frankly, for your friendship. Thank you.
Albert, thank you very much. Great job. Great job.
Thank you, Mr. President. The growth of drug spending, that is, the increase in drug pricing, is the fastest and biggest increasing area of healthcare spending. So today's announcement has incredible implications for healthcare spending in the United States. And today marks the beginning of the end of the Great American Ripoff. And it also marks the beginning and the end of a great American tragedy, something I've seen as a physician at the bedside. Patients getting spun up into a financial rage, doing GoFundMe campaigns online, sending repeat reminders, asking people to donate, getting their churches to pass the offering plate from pew to pew, Sunday after Sunday, to try to get enough money to pay for a drug in the United States, a drug that's 5 or 10 times more expensive than the same drug in France or Germany or the UK. People get spun up, and it's a tragedy. Having cancer is hard enough. Getting spun up into a financial rage in order to try to get the money to pay for treatment makes it so much harder. 37% of people who go through cancer care say in the end that the financial toxicity makes them want to avoid or delay care in the future. That is, they're done with it. They're done with the system. That's how toxic financial toxicity can be. And for what? For what? So the U.S. can finance the R&D of the world? Well, that ends today, thanks to President Trump. So we want to see R&D. We want to see American pharmaceutical companies thrive. We want to see pharmaceutical companies that do business and manufacture in the United States thrive. At the FDA, we're doing our part. If you're going to equalize your price to that of other wealthy countries, we're not talking about Zimbabwe. We're talking about Germany, France, UK, Japan, other wealthy countries, the OECD countries. If you equalize your price, then we're going to put your future applications at the front of the line. A voucher to get a review in weeks has a market street value of about $500 million because every day is money when it comes to getting a drug approved. And so if you meet one of the president's national priorities stated very clearly, moving manufacturing to the United States, meeting a large unmet public health need, or equalizing your prices. We're the largest purchasers of drugs. We deserve the best prices. And so we're going to do our part. And if a generic company makes their drug in the United States, that application is going to move to the front of the line as well. And if you're going to build a plant in the United States, our FDA inspectors will walk through that plant during the construction phase, something never done before, so that it's ready on day one. So thank you, Mr. President, for your leadership. They said it couldn't be done, and here we are. Thank you.
Chris, you may want to go up and just show one of the boards about how quickly the prices come down. And these are small examples. We're going to have it over 1,000% in some cases. You'll see that during the week. But we just picked out 4 at random, and you see the kind of numbers. Bobby and maybe Albert, good.
We picked 4 examples, but I want to be totally clear. These are not the only 4 examples. And as the President mentioned, this is not the only agreement. It is the first. It's a historic agreement. There are many to come, and we're excited to talk about them. And that means hundreds and hundreds of drugs. We are not exaggerating when we talk about reductions of up to 80%. We give you 4 examples here. One for dermatitis. A new price, adenosine, results in 80% reduction to what's available today. One in postmenopausal osteoporosis, 85%. Migraines that affect so many Americans, 50% reductions. Rheumatoid arthritis, something my own mother struggled with, 40% reductions. This is about access. This is about ensuring that Americans have access to life-saving medications. These are real prices. These are net prices. They're not made up. They're not funny numbers.
Thank you very much. Great job you've done. Everybody here has been incredible. We've been standing here talking about the Make America Healthy Again a lot lately, and I think our meeting the other day was excellent on a thing called Tylenol. That was a very important meeting. I think that was a very important meeting. And this, in terms of pricing, it's going to be great for Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. It's going to be great for everything because your medicine costs are coming way down. We have some examples that I think we'll be able to show you next week of over 1,000% in some cases, where a pill that cost $10 in London was costing $130 in New York and various other places within the United States. And the same thing with Canada. People would go to Canada, they'd go to Mexico, they'd go to other places to buy drugs. They don't have to do that anymore. So we have favored nations. So that's what we have. And it's one of the biggest days I think anybody will ever have. We're talking about massive numbers, and the numbers are going to get even better with a little time. And I will say, Albert, I think that the drug companies are going to be the same. You're going to, the world, we're really competing against the world, so they have more people. So we'll come down a lot, and the world's going to go up a little bit. And the end result is you're going to, I think, do the same business pretty much. Maybe you'll figure a way to do more business, I think, knowing you. But I think the drug companies, we're going to come down a lot, the U.S. The U.S. will come down a lot. But the world, many more people, is going to go up a little bit. And it equalized, and it's a great tribute. And I want to thank everybody up here. J.D., thank you for all of your help, too. And Howard, great, really great job. Thank you all very much. Do you have any questions? How about we focus on this? It's so big, let's focus on this.
Mr. President, can you please give us a timeline?
Yeah, Mr. President, first of all, this kind of goes along with your America First campaign promises, with lowering health care costs. On a day that it seems like we're going into a government shutdown led by Democrats on the premise of providing health benefits to illegals, this seems to, your move here is a stark contrast to that. Could the same principles that you did today apply to health insurance, to maybe lower the cost of health insurance? Many Americans are kind of struggling with that.
And we're working on just that, little different group, but we're working on just that. It could, I don't know to this extent. We have a pill, one pill in particular we're going to show you next week. It sells for $10 in other countries and $137 in the U.S. And that's coming down now to probably $15 or $18. They'll go up to 18. I think that's pretty much right, Albert. It's not you, but they'll go up to 18, and we'll come down from 135 or whatever down to 18. I mean, that's a massive number. Remember, I was the one that held a news conference because I lowered drug prices by 1/4%. I think it was 1/8 of 1%, but it was the only one in 28 years that brought drug prices down for the year. But it was a very small number. Now we're talking about, you're going to see one over 1,000%. Look at these numbers. So, and this has a big impact, even on the discussion that we'll have with Chuck Schumer, who was here yesterday, along with a very nice gentleman who I didn't really know. You know who I'm talking about. The two of them came, and we had a good discussion, and we're going to see what happens. We're going to see what happens. But this has a huge impact on that because these numbers are going to bring Medicaid. We talk about Obamacare. Obamacare is a failure. Obamacare is not good. It's there, but relative to other healthcare programs, it's in the lower 20%. It's not good. And I asked the Democrat representatives, what do you think about coming up with a better healthcare? This actually allows you to do that because the cost of prescription medicine is a big, I guess, a very big, more than 50% the cost of what we're talking about. So we might be able to do something like that. This is one of the biggest news conferences from a medical standpoint that I think has ever been had by any administration. Yeah, please.
Thank you. I'm curious, where are the other companies other than Pfizer? Are you expecting them to come later?
They're all with us. And I was honored to have Albert be the first. He's done a fantastic job with, as you know, with the COVID. He did a fantastic job with a lot of things. He's a leader, and Pfizer is right at the top. It's there. Eli Lilly has been fantastic also, your friend, my friend. And they're all coming in over the next week. We're making deals with all of them. And I said, if we don't make a deal, then we're going to tariff them an extra 5, 6, 7, 8%, whatever the difference is, and we'll take it that way. So we took away the advantage by the fact that we have tariffs. We took away the advantage that they would have of just saying no, and we couldn't do anything about it. If they do that, what we do is we'd put a tariff on them of an equivalent amount, and we take it that way. And nobody wants to play that game. So they're going to be, they're all going to be good. We didn't have to mention that to Albert. Well, maybe I whispered it to him very slightly. We had to give ourselves a little bit of an advantage. But no, but the tariffs played a big role because they know that's what's going to happen.
Chair, you mentioned the tariff, the exemption of the 232s, but can you share a timeline for when we can expect the results of that 232 investigation?
Let Howard answer that question, please.
Sure. So while we're negotiating with these companies, we're going to let them play out and finish these negotiations because they are the most important thing to the American people. So we are standing by, helping and working with them, but the driver of the 232 outcomes is our HHS team because, look what they've accomplished today. So we are on their side helping them, but that is the model that's going to drive.
And you have to understand, Albert's spending $70 billion that he wouldn't be spending because of the tariffs, let's say, and other reasons. I think he liked the winner of November 5th, in all fairness, but because of the tariffs. And that wouldn't happen. He's not going to pay any tariffs because when he moves here, there are no tariffs. So he won't be paying tariffs. That's the beauty of it. If you move here, there are no tariffs. And we have over $17 trillion, Albert. Do you believe these numbers? So Biden had less than $1 trillion for 4 years. We have over $17 trillion for essentially 8 months. Pretty amazing.
When will prices come down, Mr. President? When can
Immediately. They're going to start coming down. Drug prices? Well, they'll be starting immediately. Yeah.
Mr. President, can you speak to what impact you think this reduction in drug prices will have on midterms coming up?
I think it's going to have a huge. I said, if we can pull this off before midterms, I've wanted to do it from the beginning, from my first day in first term. And we were doing so well. We had the greatest economy we've ever had. Everything was good. And then we're ready to do this, which is complex and big. It's a big change. But what happened is COVID came, and we focused on COVID. We focused on COVID very hard with Albert, with the other companies, with everybody. Regeneron was a great thing. We did a lot of therapeutics that were fantastic. And so we focused on that. And I said, if I pull this off again, the first thing I'm going to do, and we've been working on this really for 8 months. This is a very big deal. This is a big shock to the system. But it's not as much as I said. They're going to go up. The world is going to go up a little bit. We're going to come down a lot. But now it's fair. We're going to be paying the same thing. Yeah, please.
Trump, in your first term, when you cut the price of insulin, Biden later came in. He tried to steal credit for that. Do you do you worry that the Democrats are going to try to steal credit for these historic cuts?
I really appreciate your question because I did. I cut the price of insulin down to $35. And the problem is with many of these things, and in this case it's going to be pretty quick, but oftentimes you'll do something medically because of the process, and it won't be seen for 2 or 3 years. That happened also with, I could say 4 different things, but just if you talk about insulin, so it was 200, 300, 500, and you couldn't get it, and I got it down to 35. And I said, I hope I win the next election because otherwise whoever wins is going to take credit for it. Well, what happened is we did win the election. We did great. But unfortunately, it didn't work out that way from a practical standpoint. And Biden, when I saw him get up and take credit for the $35 and even less insulin, that was 1,000% lower than what it was just previous. Boy, I tell you, I didn't like it. I didn't like it. So I did the best I could to let him know we did it because we want to be given credit. But we are the ones that got insulin down to that number. And you're right. They tried to take credit for it. They had nothing to do. In fact, they didn't even know what happened. All of a sudden, the insulin price kicked in at $35. And they asked Biden about it. He had no idea what the hell they were talking about. But after they explained, and they didn't really explain to him because he was not capable really of understanding it. But when they went out and talked about it, they acted like it was a great feat by Biden. It had nothing to do with him. And it continues, and we'll get it down even further. But insulin was, people weren't taking it, I would imagine. They couldn't take it. God bless you, Bobby. I hope I didn't catch COVID just there.
You've got out.
Don't you have Paxlovid? What is it?
I have it here.
He's got Paxlovid. give me a Paxlovid immediately.
While Nancy Pelosi is ignoring what you're doing for the American people, she's going after your administration for cutting taxpayer-funded health care for illegal aliens. Last night, Nancy Pelosi, she went on NBC last night, dropped a bunch of F-bombs, told Republicans to go F themselves. Has she lost her mind?
We have done an unbelievable job medically. Just this, if you did nothing else, we've done a lot like the insulin, but just this, nobody can ever catch this. This is the biggest price reduction times, maybe 10 times, 15 times than has ever been given before. And this is going to have a huge impact. You know, as I said, Obamacare is not a good thing. It's been bad. And I'd like to make it better. I told them, I spoke to a lot of people, a lot of Democrats recently. I said, why don't we change it? We can make Obamacare much better. We could come up with a new system that would be much better, less expensive for the people and better. This is maybe the biggest breakthrough because, you know, when you're talking about the prescription drugs, that's a big part of it. So we're going to look, this is prescription, but we're going to be looking at that. We could come up and through this whole thing, you know, because I don't know, we'll probably have a shutdown because one of the things they want to do is they want to give incredible Medicare, the Cadillac Medicare to illegal immigrants. And what that does is it keeps them coming into our country, and like they do in California. And no country can afford that, no country. And we have the border stopped up. We have it closed. We have nobody for 4 months. Zero people came in. That wasn't me. That's by the authorities who happen to be liberally oriented. But just think of that. We have people offering health care to people all over the world that they can't afford to pay. And that's the Democrats. And what that does is it brings people into the country because they want to come in for the health care. But no country can afford it, and they can't afford it. So we cannot allow them to charge tremendous amounts of money for health care for people that aren't even citizens. And in many cases, they come in from prisons, jails, and mental institutions. And we can't let that happen. So we have a big fight over that. We have a fight over open borders. They still want open borders. We're having a fight over men and women's sports, if you believe it. You would have thought they would have learned that it's not a good issue. And we have a fight in transgender, as you know, transgender for everybody. And that, when you talk medically, that's a lot of money, too. That's a lot. Those operations are bad. So those things are also being discussed right now. I mean, can you imagine we're actually talking about open borders, and we now have a great border, and we have a great country. Our country was dead 1 year ago. Now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. Big difference. Yeah.
What does it say about the state of the Democrat Party when they have a 33% favorability rating on average in recent months, and they're willing to shut down the government over health care?
They are shutting it down. We're not shutting it down. We don't want it to shut down because we have the greatest period of time ever. I told you, we have $17 trillion being invested, so the last person that wants it shut down is us. Now, with that being said, we can do things during the shutdown that are irreversible, that are bad for them and irreversible by them, like cutting vast numbers of people out, cutting things that they like, cutting programs that they like. And you all know Russell Vought. He's become very popular recently because he can trim the budget to a level that you couldn't do any other way. So they're taking a risk by having a shutdown because of the shutdown, we can do things medically and other ways, including benefits. We can cut large numbers of people out. We don't want to do that, but we don't want fraud, waste, and abuse. And, we're cutting that. But they want to have illegal aliens come into our country and get massive health care at the cost to everybody else, and we don't have it. And that's I would say, the number one reason that they want to strike is to get illegal immigrants health care. And, Gavin Newsom wants that, too, in California, and it's destroying California. We can't have that. We're not going to let it happen.
Do you have a plan for dealing with drug companies that are responding to MFN only by raising prices overseas as opposed to lowering prices in the U.S.?
No, they're responding. I understand that question very well, but they're responding by lowering prices. They're helped by lowering prices. There's a price at which they can't sell, and they're helped by lowering prices. In the case of Albert and in the case of Eli Lilly, the fact is our prices are coming down massively. You see, that's just a few of the basics. But they're coming down much more than that with many drugs, and over 1,000%. Think of that, over 1,000% reduction. And we'll show you that next week because we have some of them on the board next week where you have over 1,000% price reduction. Now, what's going to happen is you're going to have the market will kick in. This way, the market kicks in. The other way, it was just basically it was just a form of control. You were stifling the market. Yeah.
Following up on Brian,
this point, is a shutdown inevitable? And how would you describe the negotiations with Democrats yesterday? Are more meetings scheduled?
So nothing is inevitable, but I would say it's probably likely because they want to give health care to illegal immigrants, which will destroy health care for everybody else in our country. And I didn't see them bend even a little bit when I said we can't do that. Okay?
Can I ask a question of Dr. Oz, Administrator Oz? If there is no deal reached on the Obamacare subsidies with the Democrats, is there anything that CMS can do to lower those, to mitigate the increases of those Obamacare subsidies?
Not really, but we have time. We have time till the end of the year to make the changes I know the president is evaluating, but we should have a clean, continuing resolution, get past this budget process as it has happened so many times, and allow the president and leadership some freedom to be able to put some good ideas in front of the legislative bodies.
Mr. President, undocumented immigrants.
We actually do have time for that.
Not eligible for the health care subsidies that Democrats are demanding. So can you clarify, what are you talking about when you say Democrats want to protect their health care?
So when an illegal person comes in, a person who came into our country illegally, therefore breaking the law, and look, we all have big hearts. I have a bigger heart than you do. They're all breaking the law, and they're coming into our country. And we just, as a country, cannot afford to take care of millions of people who have broken the law coming in. We want them to come into our country, but we want them to come in legally. Now we have a strong border, very strong border, thanks to Christie and Tom Homan and the whole group. They've done an amazing job at the border. I mean, we had a border that was reckless. We had a border that was a disaster. They were coming in by the millions. I say 25 million people. You're saying less, but I say 25 million people came in illegally. And no system can take care of the health care of all of those people that came in. Now, a lot of them have gone out. We have over 11,000 murderers. We got many of them out. Many of those people have been taken out of the country, brought back to where they came from. In some cases, put in prison because they're so dangerous. We don't want to take them out. We have to watch them. We don't want them coming back. But if you look at what's happened in Washington, D.C. right now, it is such a place. I just drove through it. And it's clean and nice and beautiful, and people are walking around and they're not afraid of being mugged. We haven't had murders. We haven't had anything happen in a long time. It took us 12 days to make it very good. It took us 20 days to make it beautiful. And now we're going to Memphis. But I think we should always keep a presence here, because if we don't keep a presence, it's going to come back never like it was, because we got rid of 1,700 career criminals. You know what that is? One career criminal can give you a lousy reputation for danger, because they commit many crimes a day in some cases. But Washington, D.C. is an unbelievable example of what can happen. And now we're going, as you know, to Memphis, which was very similar to Washington, very dangerous. And we're there, and we're working along very well with the governor, the mayor. A lot of these Democrat mayors, you know, what they don't want to have us do well because if we do well, it makes them look bad, and they shouldn't feel that way. If I were a Democrat and I was a governor or mayor, I'd be calling Trump. I'd say, get your troops over here, just help, because the mayor of Washington is getting a lot of credit for what we did, a lot of credit. But the beauty is, isn't it nice, seriously, you walk down the street, you're not going to be mugged, you're not going to be hit. We had a meeting about 3-4 months ago, and I was saying to the media, how many of you people have been threatened or mugged or accosted during your walk to the White House? And they said, we don't walk to the White House anymore. But the answer was, remember, Brian, almost everybody's, look at this guy. They even attacked this big, strong guy, right? Didn't you get attacked? Did you? But yeah, just take a look at the other guy, right? What happened to the other guy? I don't know. Those other guys are pretty tough. They're tough with a gun in their hand, right? And yeah, you were hit pretty hard. But almost everybody was. And now, nobody. Anybody been accosted in the last 3 weeks? If I would have said that 6 months ago, half the hands would have been raised out. No, we have a very safe city now. The country's going to be safe. We're doing one at a time, and we'll be going to Chicago. I told you the story. Union Pacific, head of the railroad. He knows this country very well. Started off as a very low-rung employee of the Union Pacific. He's now chairman. He came to me and he said, sir, save Chicago. It's a great city. It's going down fast. They had 11 people killed over the last couple of weeks. 11 people killed, 48 shot. That's not a city. That's a war zone. There's no city in the world like that. And then we have to listen to this Pritzker get up. I know him well. They threw him out of his business, and the family threw him out of the business because he's a loser. But we have to listen to Pritzker get up. He should call me and say, get the troops in. You ever hear that? 11 people over a week and a half killed. And I think it's 48, when you add it up, 48 people shot. And then I have to listen to a governor say how nice it is. It's a wonderful experience. Now, what is a wonderful experience is D.C. People are eating in the restaurants. They just opened 2 new restaurants, which hasn't worked in years. And we had it pretty good 4 years ago. We were just getting ready to do this, but we did it right. And, we have a big victory in the Supreme Court. It's called merit. And so that includes the military. Our soldiers, did you see what they look like? These guys, they look like serious soldiers. They weren't playing games. And they went in there and they did a fantastic job. And Washington, D.C. is now a beautiful, safe city. The restaurants are thriving. The people are walking down the street holding their husband or their boyfriend's hand, and they're not worried about being raped or mugged or shot at. And it's been an amazing thing. And we'll do that in every city. We'll do them sort of one at a time. We'll do a couple at a time. And we have a tremendous force because, as you know, in recruitment numbers, when we put out, 2 years ago, when Biden would put out recruitment, nobody would join. Nobody wanted to be in the military. Nobody wanted to be police. It was just announced this morning. You probably saw my speech over with the military, with the generals, admirals. Record numbers of people signing up for the Navy, the Army, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, Space Force. I love Space Force. That was my baby. But we have record numbers of people signing up, and that includes police department, fire department. So, it's been an amazing thing. Well, we're going to have another meeting next week on this. We have another great company coming in, similar kind of numbers. But we're going to show you some 1,000% drops in prices. There has never been anything like this in the history of medicine, and it's an honor. And Albert, I want to thank you, and I want to thank everybody behind me, because you are a great team. We have a great team. Everybody says you have a great cabinet. It's a great team. So thank you, Bobby. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
What's the company next week, sir?
We've seen you a couple of times today, but I'm thrilled to sign a very historic executive order to massively accelerate pediatric cancer research and harness the extraordinary potential of artificial intelligence to fight this terrible disease. We're going to hook up the artificial intelligence with all of the other things that we have at hand, and we're going to come for answers. And these young children who are just really, some are absolutely better and others are getting better. You're all going to be better very soon. So they won't even need it, I don't believe. I want to thank Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who we see a lot of lately. You've been really active. You've been very active. Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, who's so fantastic, and I guess we reached a deal with Harvard today, so we'll see how that. All you have to do is paper it, right, Linda? Just
yes, sir.
Paper it out. It'll be great, though. It's going to have to do with something that's very important to everybody. CMS Administrator Mehmet Oz, FDA Commissioner Marty Makary, Director of the National Institute of Health, Jay Bhattacharya. Is that good, Jay? That's pretty good, right? I'm getting better.
That's perfect.
I'm getting better. Science and Technology Advisor, Michael Kratsios. AI and Crypto Czar, David Sachs. You're doing great, David. As well as a friend of mine, Stephanie McMahon, and her incredible husband, Triple H. You all know Triple H. I'm not going to fight that guy. He's one of the greatest. I also want to thank all of the brave young people who are with us today, and they've gone through a lot, but it's really coming out very good. And I just gave them a beautiful coin, and we're going to save that coin, right? A beautiful coin. In 2019, I was proud to launch the Childhood Cancer Data Initiative, and I think Stephanie was a big factor, right, Linda? She was a big factor as to what we're doing right now.
Absolutely.
Which invested $50 million a year into pediatric cancer research, and today, in line with recommendations made by Secretary Kennedy and the MAHA Commission, we're doubling that investment, adding another $50 million to Childhood Cancer Data Initiative. We're doing that immediately. And we have a lot of money coming in with the tariffs. We've never had money like this coming in. We're a rich country again. We were a dead country 1 year ago, and now we're the richest country. We're hot. We're a hot country. So it's an honor to do that. In honor of all of you, we're doing that, okay? With this order, I'm also directing the federal government to fully utilize artificial intelligence to supercharge pediatric cancer research. It's pretty amazing what's happening. For years, we've been amassing data about childhood cancer, but until now, we've been unable to fully exploit this trove of information and apply it to practical medicine. Using cutting-edge AI, we will empower scientists and researchers to discover new treatments, cures, and prevention strategies. AI can also make groundbreaking trials and therapies, and it's just going to be so accessible to everybody, families all across the country. So it's going to be amazing. What's happening is amazing. And we have more AI. We're leading in AI. We're leading China by a lot. We're leading everybody by a lot. They're creating their own energy. We let them build their own energy plant because we don't have the energy. Nobody does to feed them. The amount of energy just the AI needs coming into this country is double what we have right now. So we're letting them go out and create their own energy plants and their own electricity. And they're doing it. We're giving them permits to build electric plants. They're becoming sort of a utility. Maybe they'll do better with being a utility. Who knows? They'll do better with being a utility than they will being AI. What do you think of the chances that they... I hope I'm wrong about that, or they made a bad bet, right? So anyway, but I want to just say that we're going to defeat childhood cancer once and for all, and I'd like to ask Stephanie to say a few words. She's a very special person, and very, very much involved in this. Thank you very much, Steph.
My mother's making me step
That's
forward.
right. Your mother, she'll do that. My mother.
Well, Mr. President, thank you very much. You've already acknowledged this incredible team here, and all of these people standing behind me were inspired by the story of a little boy named Connor Mahalik. He was a little boy who didn't want to hug me because he gave choke-out hugs. He booed his favorite nurse when she came to give his chemo, and he always worried about his dad because his dad was Connor's best friend. Connor was a WWE fan who I met after one of our big events, the Royal Rumble. You could tell he was sick. He had a big scar that was running up the back of his neck and a lump on his head, but you would never know it from his personality. He told me about the t-shirt that he was wearing that was dragging on the ground because WWE superstar Sheamus, who's 6'5", had given it to him. Underneath that was his Daniel Bryan t-shirt, and underneath that was his Skylanders t-shirt because that was his favorite toy. And as I stood up from my aforementioned chokeout hug, Connor's dad told me that he didn't have long to live. And I didn't want to believe that. I kissed him goodbye on his soft little cheek, and when he looked back at me, I made an unspoken promise to fight for him and kids just like him. Kids shouldn't even know what cancer is, let alone have to face it. And this incredible team believes that too. This executive order makes kids with cancer the first focus of AI innovation across healthcare in America. If there is one thing in the world that could bring us together, please let it be our children. Because I can almost guarantee, if your child was diagnosed with cancer, you wouldn't care what party their doctor belonged to. You would just want the best. And President Trump is doing just that, enabling that every child with cancer gets the best care possible. And we couldn't be more grateful.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Great
sir.
job. Thank you very much. She's done that before, hasn't she? Great job. Bobby, please.
Today, President Trump signed an executive order that makes an historic promise. We will harness America's innovation in artificial intelligence to find cures for pediatric cancer. We stand here today because of Stephanie McMahon-Levac, never wavered in her 11-year commitment to give every child a future free of cancer. She proves how one person's courage can change what is possible. Cancer is now the leading cause of chronic disease-related death in children, and its incidence has risen by more than 40% since 1975. We cannot accept that. We must act with urgency. The MAHA strategy report released earlier this month directs HHS to focus on research that harnesses AI to uncover causes, identify risks early, and take action in childhood and young adulthood to prevent cancer. Now, this executive order directs the MAHA Commission, working with our nation's top science and technology leaders, to deploy AI to transform cancer care and research. We will accelerate progress in the Childhood Cancer Data Initiative that President Trump launched in 2019, and that means building stronger data systems, using AI to decode complex biology, designing better clinical trials that deliver faster, more effective treatment for kids. The order doubles federal investment in the Child Cancer Data Initiative with an additional $50 million just this year. NIH will expand research while the private sector and universities will bring their best tools to the table. Together, we will ensure that every innovation, every breakthrough goes to work for our children. The order guarantees that AI will be integrated into HHS interoperability networks. We will make electronic health records and claims data work for patients and researchers. We're already doing that, and always with parents in control of their child's health information. No family should have to fight cancer with outdated tools or without access to the very best science. For too long, families have fought childhood cancer while our systems lag behind. President Trump, thank you for your leadership in changing all that. This executive order is about action, unlocking cures, empowering families, and giving every child the chance to grow up healthy and strong. With American innovation and leadership, we can make our children healthy again.
Bobby, do they know why there's quite an increase that's taken place over the last number of years? Do they know why that? Do they have any idea why that's happening?
We are doing that research, and Jay Bhattacharya can talk about that. We're doing that research now for the first time. We're focusing on that, in particular colon cancers and these cancers that never affected children before. And suddenly are epidemic in our children, and we're going to find the causes. They're environmental causes. We're going to identify them and work to eliminate them.
Good, thanks. Thanks, Bobby. Jay, go ahead, please.
Hello, thank you, everyone. Thank you, President Trump, for signing this historic executive order directing your administration to use advanced artificial intelligence technologies to cure childhood cancer. By signing this executive order, the administration is advancing the NIH Childhood Cancer Data Initiative's coordinated pediatric, adolescent, and young adult rare cancer, first launched under President Trump's direction in 2019. When I was a young medical student in the 1990s, I had the privilege of spending a month in a pediatric cancer ward treating children with cancer. And I have to say it was the most difficult month of my life. I left for home every day in tears. Watching little children cope with a deadly disease is hard. They should be playing with their friends, going to school, living their best lives. But instead, they bravely face cancer. These are the bravest kids I've ever met. I have tremendous admiration for the scientists who devote their lives to finding cures for kids with cancer, for the doctors and nurses who take care of them, and for their parents who suffer alongside them, care for them, and love them. This year, nearly 9,500 children will be diagnosed with cancer in the U.S. In the mid-1970s, the 5-year survival for cancer was 58%. Today, the cancer survival rate for children with cancer is 85%. This is because of the tremendous investments we've made in treating childhood cancer, in researching it, and it's worth celebrating this achievement. But I say that 85% is still too low. We need to be at 100. Whilst we still have a long way to go. The treatments these little kids undergo involve therapies like chemo or radiation that put them through hell. Even with 85% will be cured, the therapies themselves can cause health problems as kids age into adulthood. Nearly 60% of cancer survivors experience severe life-threatening complications in adulthood because of these treatments. And so we need better treatments so that we can raise the survival rate and reduce the side effects. This initiative builds on the CCDI's mission to gather data from every child, adolescent, and young adult diagnosed with cancer, no matter where they receive care. It aims to develop a platform and tools to bring together clinical care, research tools like molecular characterization and genetic information, tools that will improve preventive measures, treatment, quality of life, survival for childhood cancer. By uniting families, clinicians, and researchers, by harnessing the power of AI, CCDI will accelerate diagnosis, inform treatment, and develop the next generation of life-saving therapies. This is not about collecting data alone. It's about giving families hope. Today, we commit to taking this work to the next level. With this executive order that President Trump is signing, we're building a future where every child's data contributes to faster diagnosis. Artificial intelligence helps us uncover faster, more precise treatments, improve quality of life, and better survival. And finally, let me extend my sincere congratulations and gratitude to President Trump for his leadership and vision in giving us this opportunity to make America healthy again, to rigorously push the boundaries of science and bring hope to millions of families. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jay. It's very nice. Appreciate it. Director Kratsios, please.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Secretary Kennedy, for your leadership on this issue. I am thrilled that our MAHA strategy prioritizes utilizing AI in the fight against cancer, and that this executive order is putting a priority to this action. Thank you for your commitment, Mr. President, to the United States for maintaining its global leadership in artificial intelligence across models, data sets, applications, and to issue an AI action plan to do just that. Your foresight in the first term, leading you to establish the CCDI to gather, harness, and share data on childhood cancers, has positioned us today to leverage AI in a way we could never imagine before. With America's pioneering models, American researchers now have the best tools in the world to turn the CCDI data into the building blocks of life-changing breakthroughs. So I and my team at OSTP are thrilled to partner with our teams at HHS and NIH and with David to empower the development of gold standard applications for the pediatric cancer research and to play our very small part in trying to protect the health and happiness of America's children.
Thank you very much,
Mr. President.
David, please.
Thank you, sir. Well, first of all, I just want to thank Stephanie McMahon and Paul Levesque for helping to bring us all together here. For years they played villains on TV, but they're actually very nice people in real life. But it's because of your passion that we're all here today, so thank you for that. And thank you, Mr. President, for your leadership on this. First of all, you did have the foresight to create this childhood cancer database way back in 2019, and that's what's going to power the AI. It's going to give us the data to find all the patterns in. The other thing you've done is you've made it your policy of this administration to support innovation, to support infrastructure, to support energy. And because of that, we have an AI boom going on right now. 3.8% growth rate in the last quarter in GDP, and a big part of that is because of the AI boom that you've unleashed. So thank you, sir, for doing that. And I think that we can see today that this AI boom is not just going to be about dollars and cents, but about saving lives as well. We're going to get some miraculous cures out of this. So thank you to everyone who's here today.
Thank you very much. Good job. We just had a meeting, and Oz was at the meeting, and really was a dominant factor along with Bobby. And maybe you could just say a couple of words about our past meeting where we're going to be lowering drug prices by 50, 100, 200, even 500%, even 1,000. We have 1,000% also. We have one coming up next week, a big one, 1,000% reduction in price. Do you want to give just a couple of words on that, Oz?
It's a historic day. For the first time, we've had the magnitude of give from the pharmaceutical industry. One of their leading lights, Alfred Boula and his company Pfizer, agreed, something the president has been pushing on since his first term and has been calling me quite frequently on speed dial over this term to make sure that Secretary Kennedy and I would seriously engage industry. They have agreed to several important concessions. First, we will have most favored nation drug pricing in this country for everyone on Medicaid. So our most vulnerable populations will not be forced to pay 3 times or more, 5, 6, 7 times more for the exact same pills in the same bottles as it costs in other countries. That'll make it a lot easier for governors to manage their budgets and shows again a distinct passion that the president has for helping people who are most vulnerable. We've also gotten all new drugs to be released in this country to be priced at most favored nation, which means by the end of the president's term, 95% of all pharmaceutical drugs in America will be at most favored nation pricing. Again, no more discrepancies between what folks in other countries can buy their drugs for and what's being purchased in this country. Pfizer also agreed, as will companies next week when they come to visit this same White House, to onshore drugs, to bring their production back into America so American workers will benefit as well. But at the same time, this is critical, it allowed Pfizer, and we believe for other pharmaceutical companies, to maintain their innovative edge. We want America to continue to find cures like the ones that saved the lives of some of the children that I'm looking at right now. Those beautiful faces and smiles are here because American innovation was not dulled, not blunted, but we can solve that need and thread the needle by also making healthcare affordable so Americans no longer, including children like this, be forced to make a difficult choice between groceries and pharmaceuticals. And I must say, Mr. President, since this morning, if you just look at the stock market, there's been support of this decision made by the CEO of Pfizer. Their stock has benefited. So I think it was the right thing for the company, the right thing for the policies of this administration, which is a pretty cool place to work. But most importantly, it's the right thing for the American people.
Thank you very much. And maybe we'll just finish it off with Linda, because she's been such an incredible cabinet member and done such a good job. Maybe you want to say something about your unbelievable daughter and son-in-law, because they've worked very hard on this.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity to do that. I don't think that any mother could be any more proud of all of the efforts that Stephanie's made in support also of Paul. Stephanie first talked about this 10 or 11 years ago after Little Connor. And I remember one of the things that she said to me was, I really would like to somehow convene the people and the scientists who think outside of the box, because research is done in very standard terms. You do this, and yes, you have to do that. But she said, I really would like to tap into some of the most creative and inventive minds in the country to be able to look at research differently for pediatric cancer. And she did that. It took her about 10 years, and she kept tapping in and calling people, being pretty relentless about it. Driven herself by a mother's heart. And I couldn't be any more proud of the work she's done. I'm happy to stand by and be a supportive mom and be very proud of her today.
Thanks. Good job you're doing. Thank you very much, Linda. Okay, any questions, please?
Mr. President, as we inch closer to a government shutdown, this morning you said you might do a lot of layoffs. If DOGE is already reducing the federal workforce, why is it necessary to link more federal jobs cut to a shutdown?
Well, the Democrats want to shut it down, so when you shut it down, you have to do layoffs. So we'd be laying off a lot of people that are going to be very affected, and the Democrats, they're going to be Democrats. As you know, this country, no country can afford to pay for illegal immigration, health care for everybody that comes into the country, and that's what they're insisting. And obviously, I have an obligation to not accept that. That would affect everybody. You know, when I see what we're doing with AI and all the plants that are opening up in the country, $17 trillion is coming. And if you compare that to Biden had, in 4 years, less than $1 trillion. We have $17 trillion, more than that. I think it's going to be much more than that, David, by the end of this year. I think it's going to be far over that. It's a record. It's already a record in 8 months. It's a record by a lot. And so we're doing well as a country, so the last thing we want to do is shut it down. But A lot of good can come down from shutdowns. We can get rid of a lot of things that we didn't want, and they'd be Democrat things, but they want open borders. They want men playing in women's sports. They want transgender for everybody. They never stop. They don't learn. We won an election in a landslide. They just don't learn. So we have no choice. I have to do that for the country. Yes.
You mentioned a deal with Harvard, Mr. President. What is that deal? Will they be paying the administration?
Well, we're in the process of getting very close, and Linda's finishing up the final details, and they'd be paying about $500 million, and they'll be operating trade schools. They're going to be teaching people how to do AI and lots of other things, engines, lots of things. You know, we need people in trade schools. I remember when I went to school, I had some people that weren't particularly good students, but they could take a motor or an engine apart blindfolded and put it back blindfolded. But they weren't too good at other things, and many of them ended up doing better than the people that were. So trade schools are very important, and we've lost trade schools. We used to have a lot of trade schools in this country. We don't have them anymore. We have tremendous plants opening, and we want to have people at top level for those plants, whether it's AI or whether it's automotive plants. You know, we have many automobile companies open their plants in the United States. They're all coming back for two reasons: tariffs, and I think they liked November 5th. You know, they liked the person that was chosen, and they're moving in from Canada, they're moving in from Mexico, they're coming in from all over the world. China is coming. They're all coming, and that way they avoid paying tariffs. So, you know, they're coming for that reason. So by opening up trade school, because we're going to need employees, we're going to need people with skill. And I think I can say, Linda, you feel the same way. By opening up trade school, this would be a giant trade school, series of trade schools. It would be run by Harvard. Now, this is something that we're close to finalizing. We haven't done it yet. But they'd put up $500 million. Interest and everything else would go to that account, meaning go to the trade school. And, you know, it's a big investment in trade school, done by very smart people. And then their sins are forgiven. So we have a good chance of getting that close. Yeah, please.
Mr. President Trump, thank you. I've been looking at this chart that you showed us earlier since we left the Oval Office earlier. U.S. prices for brand drugs are 422% higher than in comparable countries. You know, I'm young, maybe I'm inexperienced, but I think a lot of Americans are wondering, how did we even get here, being one of the biggest buyers of drugs?
You got here by incompetent people sitting behind this desk. You had a lot of incompetent people. I did it, as you know. I started it in my first term. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cuts in history. We did all these things, and we had the best economy in the history of our country during my first term. And by the way, this is blowing it away based on what we're seeing. But we got it by having people allow that to happen. And as you know, I started the process, but then when COVID came, we focused on COVID, not on this. And I said, if I ever go back and do it again, I'm going to make this a primary thing, because other countries are paying a fraction of what we pay for the same exact drug, same exact pharmaceutical, everything. And I said, no, it's not right. And the drug companies actually came along. You know, don't forget, they make 30, 40, 50 million a year, these people. They're very smart. And they had a lot of people convinced that, you know, that's the way it has to be. They talked about research and development. We had to pay. I said, well, why isn't Germany paying? Why aren't other countries paying? And they always had a good answer, but it got to a point where I didn't like the answer anymore, and I said, we have to do this, and we did it. The team that we have with Oz and Bobby and Chris and all of the people that we had working on it, and I must tell you, Marty's been a big, wherever you may be, Marty, but Marty's been a big factor. We have a great team. There's never been a medical team like this, and I said, let's go do it. And then I did, as I said, I would bug them every single day, every week, because I said, we have to have, I mean, why should we be paying 10 times what another country's paying? And that was just an excuse, you know, research and development. We do research and development. So now we're going to be paying whatever the lowest price is, we're going to be paying that price. So it's a great thing. But there won't be anything that can have the impact on Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, anything where you need pharmaceuticals, medicines. The numbers are going to come way down. Even Obamacare, which is terrible, it's not been good, as you know. It's a weak form of health care. But it'll be better because the medicine's going to come in at a very low price. Yes, please.
Yes, Mr. President. It seems like every time you assemble your MAHA team and your cabinet members behind your
in regards to health issues, it just keeps getting powerful. And I look at these young kids there and the weight that is on the world right now that you can lift by what you're doing. I've often said Trump could cure cancer and people would still criticize him. And it's true. What is your message to America that this potentially could bring us all together, get us on the same page and have unity? And I'd like to see if some of the kids or the parents have what it means to you to see President Trump get involved with this.
Well, we've made tremendous strides in cancer research, far more than anyone has done. And we have the greatest minds, the greatest people working on it. And childhood, they call it childhood cancer. It's a very specific thing. And we really made a lot of progress. I think something that's going to allow us to make a lot of progress is the money we're saving on pharmaceuticals. We'll be saving 500, 600, 1,000%. Nobody's ever heard of that. I told the story, you were here before, that when I was in the previous administration, my first term, I was so proud of myself because I'm the first president in 28 years that cut drug prices from beginning to end. So they went down. I think it was 1/8% or 1/4%, and I was so proud of that. I thought that was great. Now I'm cutting them 500%. And I will say this, politically speaking, the people understand. Otherwise, I wouldn't have won in a landslide. I get 97% bad press, and I won in a landslide, which tells you the press has no credibility. But I will say that what we've done has been a great tribute to the people that's standing behind me in different forms. Linda in education, different, but what she's doing in education, she's sending education back to the states. That's a big move. The states, you go back to Indiana, Iowa, I would say 40 states will be great. 45 will be, the 5% of them will be pretty good, and then you're going to have a Gavin Newsom and some other people that aren't going to do a good job, but, we'll help them out. I want to help them out. And we're going to have safe cities again. We're going to be very safe. We're going to be going to Chicago pretty soon. Because a friend of mine, a great guy, the head of the Union Pacific, he said, "Sir, you have to save Chicago. It's going bad. It's going bad fast, and it's a great city." He's right. It's a great city. I know it very well. And we have to save Chicago. So we're going to Memphis, Tennessee right now. We've had a home run in D.C. You can walk out. Brian, you got mugged here a long time ago.
Yes, sir.
And the mugger must have felt some pain because you're a tough cookie.
Well, he had a gun, and I wish I would have had Triple H with me as well.
Yeah. If he had a gun, all you could do is say thank you very much. No, but it's everybody here. I mean, you were here in the room when I said to the reporters, who got mugged in the last year? And like half of the people raised their hand. Now, if you said who got mugged over the last 60 days, nobody. No killing, no nothing. And the restaurants are booming, the town is booming, it's clean. The National Guard actually went out and started cleaning all the crap out of the parks. The tents are knocked down. We had one that you said it was a blue tent, and you said it was a communist tent, right? See, we're going to have a communist mayor of New York, so, let's see how that works out.
And I've gotten a lot of feedback on that. Everyone's very appreciative of you removing that tent.
You told me about a blue tent, and I said, I can't be there because we knocked them down. But this was a very highly sophisticated group of people that had permits and all the other things. Well, their permit expired. We knocked it down. It took, 24 hours less, maybe?
Yes, sir.
So I appreciate you telling me that. No, we have a great thing going. The country is doing incredible. We are a hot country. The hottest. We're the hottest country in the world right now.
Do the parents of the kids have anything they'd like to say?
Yeah, that's a great question. Would you like to say something?
I would.
That's a good comment right there. That's the best comment you've made in a long time.
Mr. President, good evening. I'm Josh Armstrong. My name is Josh Armstrong. I'm from West Virginia, and I'm the father of this amazingly brave and resilient little 6-year-old, Laurel. Laurel was diagnosed with leukemia when she was 2 years old, just before her 3rd birthday. And we went on to watch as she spent months in the hospital fighting for her life, as she received blood transfusions and platelet transfusions, as she fought off one potentially fatal infection after another. We watched as her body swelled and became painful from steroids, and then as it became frail and weak from chemotherapy. And we watched and we wondered why there aren't better treatments available, and we wondered what might happen if she doesn't get the drugs she needs. And we wondered, why isn't anybody doing more? And on behalf of myself and all the parents that have watched and wondered, we'd like to say that what you're doing today gives parents like me and children like Laurel the one thing that we most desperately need, and that's hope.
And Laurel's
Hope
doing
that,
well.
and
She's
Laurel is, I'm happy to say Laurel's in remission today.
That's good. She looks so beautiful. and
Thank
great,
you.
right?
She is
You
beautiful.
feeling good now?
That's for you.
You look so great.
Because of this bill, doctors are going to be able to get better treatments faster to patients like Laurel.
Big
And
difference.
because of you making children like her real children, not cases or statistics, but children like Laurel and all of these children here today, we have that hope, and we are so proud that you're standing with children with cancer and making it a national priority.
It's very nice.
Thank you, Mr. President.
We're with you all the way. How about you? Back there, Dad?
Actually, I'd like my daughter to speak. Could we let
Oh,
her
I
speak?
like that much
Caroline
better.
would like to speak. She's
That's
lost
very
her
good.
ear.
I'd like you to speak.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Carolyn Hendricks. When I was 4 years old, I was diagnosed with Ewing sarcoma, a pediatric bone cancer. 11 years later, I'm now 16 years old, and I'm doing great. What you're doing today, Mr. President, means that kids like me will get better options and so much more hope for the future. This will help doctors use technology to find cures faster, match patients to trials more quickly, and give our families more control over our health. For kids, every day counts. This order shows that our lives matter enough to be first in line for innovation. On behalf of children and young adults with cancer, those still fighting and those in remission like me, and families who wish that they had more time together, thank you for making us a national priority. Mr. President, because of actions like this, kids like me have the chance to grow up, to chase our dreams, and to live full lives. And that is the greatest gift anyone could ever give.
Wow. That was so good. Your father could not have done that like you. You did a great, there's a big service, Father.
Yes, sir.
That's great. Where did you learn how to speak like that?
I've done lots of speeches for childhood cancer over the last few years, and I'm also in a theater program, so that
That's
helps a
great.
lot.
Well, good. That's a great job. Would anybody like to say something? Would you like to say something, honey?
Yes. I'm Eleni Myers. I'm 9 years old, and I had a blood cancer called leukemia when I was only 2 years old. I had to get treated at 7 different hospitals across this country, and I had to have 2 bone marrow transplants, one for my dad and one for my mom. And I had to spend many days and the nights in the hospital getting pokies and yucky medicine. And me and my parents were very worried, and I had to go through those 7 different hospitals to find the best treatment that can make